Trump's trade war explained in under 5 minutes. Tariffs are back on August 1st with new tariffs on steel, auto, energy, and even household appliances, all parts of a rapidly escalating trade war that's reshaping global markets. So here's the full timeline of Trump's tariffs in 2025.
Starting tomorrow, his administration says they're putting a 25% tariffs on all products from Canada and Mexico and a 10% tariff on goods from China. Press secretary said today the tariffs are in response to the illegal fentanyl those countries have sourced and distributed in the U.S. Bob McNabb, an economics professor at Old Dominion University, says these tariffs have the likelihood to raise prices on certain goods here in the U.S.
When you increase tariffs to protect a specific industry, the costs of protecting that industry are much more than the revenue you get.
Late Friday afternoon, President Trump announced tariffs on oil and gas from China, Mexico, and Canada. Those will take effect in a couple weeks. McNabb says if that happens, not only could prices at the pump go up, but prices for things like auto parts, tequila, tomatoes, and avocados.
On February 1st, 2025, President Trump announced 25% tariffs on imports from Canada and Mexico, with an additional 10% on Canadian energy. A week later, steel and aluminum tariffs originally introduced back in 2018 were extended globally, and an additional 10% on autos was rolled out as part of a broader push to boost U.S. manufacturing. On March 4th, the tariffs officially took effect. China was hit especially hard. Tariffs on Chinese goods were raised to 25%, escalating an already tense relationship. A day later, Trump met with executives from Ford, GM, and Stellantis, who convinced him to pause the auto tariffs for 90 days to give them time to adjust supply chains.
President Trump is set to roll out a wave of tariffs to advance his America First economic agenda.
It's an event that he is calling Liberation Day.
There are several unknowns, including how the White House plans to structure this. The White House trade advisor, Peter Navarro, said on Fox News Sunday the tariffs could raise $600 billion annually, which some took to imply an average rate of 20%. According to some reports, the president has considered a flat 20% as a way to generate more revenue to offset the tax cuts he hopes to push through Congress. But Moody's chief economist said yesterday a 20% universal tariff would be a worst-case scenario combined with full retaliation from other countries on U.S. goods. Moody's claiming its simulation with those inputs would wipe out 5.5 million jobs, raise unemployment to 7%, and drop GDP by 1.7%.
On April 2nd, Trump announced what would become known as Liberation Day, 10% global baseline tariffs, along with variable higher rates for 57 countries. The rate was adjusted based on their trade deficit with the United States. However, the math was dubious at best, sparking rumors that the formula for calculating tariffs was generated by AI. The move triggered immediate international backlash, with legal threats pouring in from many U.S. allies and trading partners.
The federal court has just blocked the bulk of President Trump's sweeping global tariffs from going into effect. The ruling comes from the U.S. Court of International Trade in Manhattan. It's unclear right now whether the injunction is temporary or permanent, but the decision is potentially massive political, economic, and legal repercussions. Just moments ago, White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller wrote online, "The judicial coup is out of control."
Within days, most reciprocal tariffs, excluding the baseline 10% and tariffs on China, were paused for 90 days. On April 11th, China retaliated, announcing massive new tariffs on American goods. Tariffs and tensions escalated until May, when the U.S. and China reached a temporary agreement, reducing tariffs until August. In June, the U.S. doubled steel and aluminum tariffs from 25% to 50% and extended them to household appliances as well, with the exception of the UK, which struck a separate deal with the US. Now in July, things are heating up again. Trump is threatening 50% tariffs on Brazil over what he called the unjust prosecution of former President Bolsonaro. At the same time, he's targeting traditional U.S. trade partners with a fresh 35% tariff on Canadian imports and 30% tariffs on the EU and Mexico, set to take effect August 1st. If nothing changes, August 1st will mark one of the biggest single-day tariff expansions in U.S. history. Subscribe for more daily briefs and check out the 1-minute brief on this topic linked in the description below. Hey everybody, a lot's happened since I recorded this video, so part 2 will be coming soon. Okay, bye!